So if you are waiting for the market rate to fall below 5% before you buy your first home, I want you to pay very close attention to today's market update. Because here's the thing, you're definitely not alone. A recent survey shows that 63% of the home buyers say a good mortgage rate needs to be below 5%. And you know what? 37% of the people who are buying in today's market don't even consider a good rate without the number 3% range, right? But here's the problem. The question remaining is, will that ever happen? Will the 5% ever happen? Will the 3% ever happen in the short term? So in today's video, I am going to share with you what's happening right now, what we are forecasting in the future, and what the expectation for you. So my name is Long Lei. I am with Multiple Success Realty team here in Chandler, Arizona. So let's look at those numbers. Right in front of you right here is a chart to show the result of a survey done by Best Interest Financial. This chart shows you that 63% of the buyers say good mortgage rate is below 5%. And 37% of the people say, in this survey, say that they don't consider mortgage rate good until they see the 3% range. I totally understand why people expecting that low, right? So if you started, the number that you compare to is the interest rate of 2020 and 2021. When the interest rate is 3% or sometimes even 2.75 or 2.5%. Very low, super low, right? And once you've seen the 3%, a rate of 6% range can feel extremely expensive. But there's an important difference between what buyers want and what buyers actually offering. So here's the next chart becoming the important. So here's the forecast chart, which show the expected interest rate from 3 different financial organizations, Fannie Mae, MBA, and Wells Fargo. This chart shows that from now, this is now 6.4% Q2 of 2026, right? From now until Q2 of 2027, the interest rate is still around 6.2 and 6.5%. Of course, you can say, Long, this is just the forecast, nothing guarantee. I'm 100% sure that the interest rate gonna go down, right? Because the economic condition can change and a lot of things could happen. Well, you're right. Maybe the economic change in the future, but you also have to accept the fact that maybe not. What if the economic is just the same, right? And then there's nothing special happen. We are going to see another 6.2 to 6.5% until another year, until Q2 of 2027. So therefore, you cannot just build a house. You cannot build your housing plan using an assumption that may or may not happen, right? And that assumption is the interest rate drop to 4% to 5%. Some people say, until I see 4%, until I see 5%, then I will buy a house. Until I see 3%, then I will looking for a house. There's so many unknowns that may or may not happen in the future. But here's what the big companies say, right? Now that is the forecast for the future. What happened in the past? Let's look at some of the past data. The 5% that you expected, a lot of people are expecting, is actually the last time we see it is in 2022. After April 2022, the interest rate go higher and higher, go down a little bit, but it's still right around 6%. It doesn't have any signal to go down at all, right? It's still above 6.65% today. It doesn't have any signal to go down. So if you've been waiting since April, a lot of people actually in April 2022, when interest rate go to like 7-8%, they put a hold, right? And you know, some people come back already, some people are still waiting. And if you are still waiting for the interest rate to continue to fall, by looking at this chart, My question to you is, what are you waiting for a thing that may not happen, right? Nobody knows exactly what happened in the 6 to 12 months from now, but according to the history, this is what we observe. Now let's even zoom out at the all data. Okay, in front of you right here is the data since 1970. Okay, and red, like all the white line, is the interest rate per year by time, right? You're gonna see we divide this chart into 3 different regions. Okay, the region is from 10% to 19%. For the matter of fact, there's a period of time in the past that it has that high, right? It's about 20%, occurs about 20% of the entire timeline from 1970 to now, right? This is the period from 1977 all the way to 1985. Okay, now percentage that you see 5% or below is right after the recession in 2009 all the way to 2022 when the COVID ended. These are the period that we see below 5% and sometimes reach to 2%, right? And that period is also about 20% of the historical timeline. And the rest is actually 60% of the historical is considered a normal rate, which happening like before 1977, 1989, all the way to 2009, and from 2022 until now. Those are the period that we have the from 5% to 10%, which is considered normal. Okay, the ultra low mortgage rate, many buyers remember, was not historically normal, right? But that's actually unusually favorable to the buyer. So I wouldn't consider today's is cheap, right? Many 6% still create challenge in monthly payments. I agree with that, right? But historical data, today's rates are not the worst, okay? And not even at the high end of the normal range, right? If you talk about 10% or 9% over here, it is a high end. This is still 6%, so it's still considered a low end of the normal range, right? The period that people are waiting here may never happen based on the historical data. And of course, again, I'm repeating this information, but I will have to say it again. No one knows for sure what happened in the future, right? This is just want to show you the perspective of what the number of today interest rate versus the rate in the past. The reason why a lot of people hoping for this one is, of course, number one is low, and number two is the most recent lowest data that people see. Had we don't have this period, no one gonna ever complain about a 6% that they have today because they're afraid of getting the 19%, right? Now, of course, I'm not saying that you should buy like 100% should buy today market all the time, right? But my point is, do not look at a number, meaning do not making the decision based on a number that you cannot hold. You cannot know for sure what happened in the future. So let's look at the present. Use the current interest rate, calculate, estimate the monthly payment based on that interest rate, and then see whether it's a good match or not. The typical recommended 35%. If the total housing cost is about less than 35% of your total income, take-home income, you should be confident. But of course, it's up to you, right, to make the decision. What I'm saying is that compare that housing market, housing with your total income. If you feel comfortable, make the decision to buy. Don't wait for a thing that couldn't happen, right? May or may not happen, but you don't know the future. No one knows the future. That's what I'm saying. Always recommend my buyers to look at the current situation, the current number, and make the decision. It's much better and easier that way. Okay? Now, a couple of things that you can actually reduce the interest rate in today's market. You don't have to necessarily get the 6.4, 6.6%, the open market, but you can actually have some options. Let's go through some options first, okay? Number one is to go with the brand new house. The brand new build, typical, this is an average for the entire US, right? Today rate for the pre-sale home that some that already bought by someone and you buy again is 6.475. This is an open market. But if you buy a new build house, your average interest rate is about 5.85%. So that is almost a 0.5% difference, right? Why? The builders can sometimes use incentives to help buyers with financing, and then they can provide a good discount on interest rate, right? I know this is like for the entire US, but I know for the fact that here in Arizona, a lot of builders offering promotional financing for like 4.5% in rate or 4.99% range, right? Even 3.99, I heard of that sometime as well. Okay, is the very good. Okay, but I have to also warning you. Okay, even you can get 4.5% or maybe 3.99% interest rate, if the monthly payment still higher than 35% of the total take-home income, you shouldn't consider buying a home. Okay, it's too dangerous for you to buy a house. That's what I meant when I say regardless of the interest rate. Okay, you have to be comfortable with that monthly payment, because that monthly payment will be going with you for the next 30 years. So that is a very important thing to calculate. And talk about that I have a free webinar specifically designed for immigrant first-time home buyer. In this webinar, I am going to talk about how to avoid some kind of a lot of problems that you have with the home buying process, how to choose right agents, how to save up for the down payment, how to choose the right loan program, how to select the right house for your family, how to go through the entire making an offer and doing the inspection on the house, and last but not least, how to build wealth with the house. If you are interested, feel free to scan your QR code right here and sign up for the webinar. It is completely free, and if you have anyone who is interested in that, feel free to share the link as well. Okay. Now, the other way that we can also ask for to get for lower interest rate is to buy down interest rate. It's funny, right? To get a lower interest rate, you can buy down interest rate. Well, for the fact here it is, you can spend some money, okay, and depending on how much you want to lower the interest rate, the could be higher, okay. Now, some of you might think, okay, Long, I don't have the extra. I'm the first-time home buyer. I only be able to save up 5% of the down payment, $20,000, $30,000. I don't have any extra money to do so. Okay, great. But it's exactly the reason you should buy in today's market, because there's a negotiation strategy that you can actually ask the seller to pay for your closing costs. That's called seller concession. And here's the table to show you the seller concession that willing to pay the seller concession. In 2021, there's only 27% of the seller willing to do so. In 2022, there's only 23% of the seller willing to do so. In 2025, it's already 43% of the home seller willing to do so. And now 2026, it's about 46% of the home seller across the country willing to give the buyer some money to help the buyers lower the interest rate. You may be thinking, why would the seller do that? But here's the thing, if they don't do it, it's really difficult for the buyers to buy the house, right, with the high interest rate. So if they really want to sell the house, they have to give some kind of promotion. It's just like a discount that you see on Black Friday. So this period right here is considered Black Friday of the real estate. Well, it's actually Black Year, or however you want to use it, right? Black Friday of the real estate. And you can get a lot of discount in today's market. Some of you might thinking, Long, you've been talking about real estate is local. What about Arizona? Arizona seems to be still very competitive, right? So let's look here. 57% of home seller in Arizona willing to give seller concession as well. That is actually the highest level we see since 2018. 2018, we have about 40%. Then we drop to about 10%, 20% during the period the interest rate is super low and the buyer is super competitive in here. And then you start going back up to 60%, 57% as of right now. Okay? What about Chandler? Chandler about 58% as of today. Okay, if you remember, in my other videos, I've been talking about how competitive Chandler market is. Even in the very competitive Chandler market, the home sellers still willing to give up concession. Can you imagine that? Have you think of any market that you can actually, even though you have to competing with other buyers, but the home sellers still give you money to buy their house? No other market before that had the same situation, right? So that is a conversation I always want to talk to the buyers, like, okay, even though the interest rate is high, right? But you can negotiate for price. You are able to negotiate for the seller paid concession. You are able to negotiate for repairs. You are able to buy down the interest rate. What could be a better market like that? And as long as after all the number makes sense, it fits with your monthly budget, then why not now? Okay, instead of waiting for future that may or may not happen. The last option that you may also do is to consider using the adjustable, meaning the rate change. Okay, so here's the 30 years fixed rate with the 5-1. That means 5 years. After 5 years, the interest rate go higher. Okay, this 5-1 down, right? So this is just one of these programs. There's something like 2-1 buy down or down, right? There's a lot of program as well. And the best person to contact is your loan officer to be able to give you what options that is best fit for your situation. Because even though the interest rate is lower, right? The cost maybe have to consider at that as well. And as long as you can call, the seller willing to pay for that cost, it still makes sense, right? That is the evaluation. That's the conversation. Depend on the situation, depend on the loan program that you can have. So that is one of the suggestions you may wanna do as well. Final takeaway today. Okay, if you forget everything I say today, keep in mind this. Okay, if you are waiting for 3% interest rate, history tells us that that number may never happen. If you are waiting for below 5%, current forecast suggests that may not happen neither. But there are many ways that you can actually reduce your interest rate. Buy a brand new house by asking for concession, which a lot of home sellers willing to give up right now to encourage buyers to buy. Or you can buy down, you can do the rate for your. You are thinking about buying your first home in Chandler or anywhere around Phoenix metro area, and you are not sure whether you should buy now or continue to wait, reach out to me directly. We will look at numbers together, not just the interest rate, but the actual monthly payment, available incentives, negotiation opportunities, and whether the home makes sense for you, for your family, long-term goals or not. My name is Longley. I'm with Magical Success Realty team here in Chandler, Arizona, and I'll see you in the next market update. Bye-bye.